And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, the best horror movies of the year, to me. I know a lot of people are gonna throw a lot of hate on me for some of the picks for this vid, and here's my response.
Oh, bring it on! Let it rain down on me!
I know I'm a bit tardy to the party and I should have gotten this out before December 31st, but in my defense, time flies when you drift into the hunter's dream, witness the birth of a great one to bring about humanity's next step. But since the process was done a little too late, y'all got one more year to watch any of the great horror movies you missed last year and the ones you're excited for this year. Now, I haven't seen every movie that came out last year, so it's definitely possible that I missed some gems. And if that's the case, let me know down below which were your favorites for the year. Now for this list, it's in no particular order of the least best to the bestest best. I won't spoil any of these films because I think you should see them, though I may address some of the flack the movies got and go over what I think are the reasonable criticisms, or people are just being whiny little miserable shits that can never be satisfied and wouldn't know a good thing if it hit him in the fuck. The Boogeyman.
When we have a phobia or fear something, sometimes the best thing to do is to face it.
The Boogeyman is a Stephen King adaptation about that thing that creeps in at night and goes after the kiddies. And this movie's victims are a small family that recently went through the trauma of losing their mother, which makes them nice and vulnerable for the monster in the dark. I may be among the few on this one, and I can accept that. I think the movie would have been better if it had a higher kill count, and it's kind of laughable that no one in the movie owns a flashlight when they're fighting against a monster that only exists in the dark. But I really liked the monster. I liked the sisters, the dad is aight, and the ending wasn't thought through enough, and yet I still have this listed amongst my favorites for the year. Maybe that's more of a statement on how the horror was this year, because I will admit, this year wasn't the best. But I'd still recommend giving this a watch. Evil Dead Rise.
You'd be a good mom someday, honey bear.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you know how to lie to kids.
Evil Dead Rise is about a sister visiting her sister's family in a shitty apartment building. An earthquake happens which unleashes the secrets of the Necronomicon, and one of her dumbass kids reads it and the Deadites come, which is how all Evil Dead movies go. Someone reads the book and then most of the people die. I really liked this movie, and if I were to describe it in one word, it would be fun. Most of the criticisms I hear about this movie is that it's not scary, which, yeah, I get, but the Evil Dead movies aren't super known for being scary. They are dark, violent, and some of them have a fair amount of humor in it. There is also some fair criticism about the ending and the final monster, which I also get, but it wasn't enough for me to hate this flick. I loved the violence, I loved most of the characters, I loved the dark humor, and we got a new solid monster scream out of it. Which, if you're new to my channel, I am all about the monster screams. And I'll also add that even if there were more great horror movies this year, this would still make it on the list. I liked it that much. The Blackening.
Where are the rest of your friends? We split up. You split up, but you're all black.
Whoa, oh, wow. Do not get comfortable.
I know you did.
Bold move, bro.
Sorry.
The Blackening is a slasher black comedy about a bunch of old friends getting together for a cabin trip and someone wants to play a game with them, and tensions get high when they need to figure out who is the whitest or blackest among them? This movie is a solid dark comedy. It's hard to even call it dark because as a slasher, it's pretty lame. These killers suck at what they do, and the kills that you do see on screen are pretty meh. I only call it a dark comedy because it has a slasher setting, but this is mostly just a comedy. And I may not be black, these bones are more of a dark gray, but I can say that the humor for the most part is for everyone. What I am getting at is that there may be a joke or two that may go over your head if you're not black, but the rest of it, I can confidently say anyone could have a good laugh at. I remember seeing this one on opening night, and it was sad that the theater was so empty, but everyone who was there was having a great time. Give it a watch. Saw X.
I still have a lot of work that needs to be done.
Saw X may be the 10th installment in the Saw franchise, but it actually takes place in between Saw 1 and 2. There's a lot of tropes and other things to expect from a Saw movie, but what makes this movie one of the best to come out this year is the return of John Kramer. The man may be so old that you'd question if they got a walking corpse to play the role, but he still nails it. It actually makes you think that it may have been a huge mistake for them, like as a franchise, to actually have killed him off so early. And in this one, this isn't like a piss poor cameo like in Jigsaw that lasts only like a minute or two. John Kramer takes center stage. And this basically just goes off of like, you know, him dealing with his cancer and like the beginning treatments of it and whatnot, and someone offers him some kind of miracle cure that doesn't actually turn out super well. And there may be some holes to poke at in it, like how terrible Amanda's hair looked. There's also some obvious questions that you will have with the last trap of the movie, and the timing of the traps is a bit ridiculous, but I still had plenty of fun with this movie, and if you watch it, there is an end credits scene. Just an FYI. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a slasher film based off of a fake trailer that played during the Grindhouse double feature of Planet Terror and Death Proof. We've gotten a few movies from those trailers, and maybe we will get some more, but this one was long anticipated by fans, and I can say that it did deliver. Slashers aren't really the scariest kinds of movies, but they are, or can be, some of the most fun. Plenty of opportunities for ridiculous amounts of violence, some creative kills, and a little bit of humor here and there, and this movie has all of the above. Now, again, this is definitely not a perfect movie. My main critique is twofold. First, a lot of the suspects have particular body types, so it's kind of easy to narrow down suspects when you look at them and what the killer actually looks like. It just makes the guessing game a bit too easy. Also, the ending clearly sets up possible sequels, but it ends so abruptly after the reveal that it just kind of falls flat. Oh, and another thing I really liked about it was the violence had some shock value to it, so please, go watch it. No one will save you. No One Will Save You is an alien invasion, home invasion movie. It really is interesting how they took these two concepts and mashed them together. I really liked the aliens in this movie, mostly because of the variety that we see them and also how they communicate. It reminds me of Bloodborne and how you were able to commune with the great beyond. That's a great game and everyone should get on it and play it so we can finally get a fucking sequel. No One Will Save You has a pretty solid protagonist, and she has a lot of fight in her, which is always a plus. The only thing I will jab at in this flick is that it tries to be a quiet movie. Like, only 2 lines are uttered in the entire flick, and sometimes it seems really forced. Like, normal people would have spoken at certain moments in this flick, even the main character would have talked to herself out loud, but no, they felt the need to make this a very silent flick. But other than that, yeah, I'd watch this again. Easy. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is based off of a single chapter of Bram Stoker's Dracula. In short, it's Dracula on a boat in a period piece type flick. And all I can say is, fuck yes. I know I might get a lot of flack for this one, but I do not give a shit. I want more period piece monster flicks in this world, and I think it's a travesty that this movie didn't make more money at the box office. The only thing I can even remember knocking against this flick is at the beginning they are hiring helping hands and the numbers don't add up for the entire crew, and when shit starts to go down, a guy mentions that he knows everyone there except for 2 newbies, but there should be more than that. Other than that, this movie has great kills, great violence, great moments of dread, great shock value, and the ending that is pretty surprising considering that they do that classic trope where they show the very end at the beginning and then backtrack a week, which is a trope I normally like to rip into pieces, like in a Robert Rodriguez film. But even though they do this, the movie surprised me with its ending. Please give it a watch. When Evil Lurks.
Hay un embichado en el pueblo.
Estás asustando a mi familia.
¡Lo vi con mis propios ojos! ¡Estuve con él!
When Evil Lurks is a Spanish flick about possession, but in the form of like an infectious virus. This is gonna be on most people's lists for one of the best horror movies of the year. This movie has got lore that is very interesting, amazing shock value, and the balls to do some stuff that 99% of other movies wouldn't do. One of the things that would have made this better is if it was a TV show, because I would love to know much more about this universe that the movie takes place in. I'd settle for a sequel, but go watch. It's on Shudder, a service that I hope keeps running because they're getting more and more goodies as the years go by. Talk to me.
Talk to me.
Talk to Me is a possession movie with a modern twist, and this movie is on this list because the story is pretty well done, the violence has a lot of shock value, and it's also just inspiring because it was made by some YouTubers. That may make my opinion a little bit biased, but allow me to shit on it a little to make up for it. This movie has a very low kill count, which is almost always a bummer. Also, there is a bit of a side story or two that really goes nowhere, and I would consider it a waste of time. Either make the movie a few minutes longer to flesh it out, or cut it out entirely. Now, with all that being said, for a couple of first timers, I think they did really well, and I think they've earned a few of your bucks. Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Mansion. Fuck, that's a long title.
The Carmichael Manor is home to a grisly murder that occurred right upstairs from where I stand.
Hell House Origins is a prequel in the Hell House LLC franchise that, if I remember correctly, the first one was pretty decent, but according to most people, the sequels are pretty shitty. But what I can say is that Origins is solid. The connections to the other movies are there, and you may need a refresher because the connections are on the low end. What I can also say is that the scares in this movie are solid. And honestly, in a horror movie, if it nails that, to me, it's worth at least one watch. And every other aspect of a movie that's done well is just icing on the cake. The only critique I could give is that it would have been a bit better if it had a little bit of a higher kill count. And that's all I got for you fine people, things, and gobbledygooks. It has been a pleasure. Now, sit tight, there will be more reviews to come. I'll even try to do a few more TV shows. And in between, I'll try yet again to bring about the demise of your species. Don't go anywhere, my spooky ones.